Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, News Nerd 3000. Thanks for the suggestion, News Nerd. You asked, who invented the newspaper? If you've ever unwrapped a fish and chips dinner or used yesterday's edition to swat a fly, you might have wondered, who started this whole newspaper thing? Newspapers have informed revolutions, sparked scandals, and even served as makeshift umbrellas during surprise rainstorms. From gossip columns to groundbreaking headlines, they've shaped public opinion and daily routines alike. Today, we're flipping through the pages of history to uncover the surprising, occasionally chaotic story of how newspapers came to be. From ancient announcements to the wild headlines of the modern age, we're covering it all, right here on Explaining Everything. Before newspapers were a thing, humans had other ways to gossip. Inform the public. In ancient Rome, they had the acta diurna, which translates to daily acts. These were daily government announcements carved into stone or metal and put in public places around 59 BCE. What better way to start your day than reading political news chiseled in rock? The acta diurna included everything from legal matters to gladiator results. So yeah, basically the ancient Roman version of Twitter, except with fewer cat videos and more violent sports. In China, the Tang dynasty came up with something similar called the Kaiyuan Zabao around the 8th century. This was a government bulletin, hand-copied onto silk and distributed among officials. Fancy, yes, but not exactly what you'd call binge-reading material. It's fascinating to think that even without smartphones, our ancestors were still craving the daily scoop, whether that meant checking gladiator scores or deciphering imperial updates. The need to stay informed, or at least entertained, runs deep in human nature. Fast forward to 1605 in Strasbourg, which is now in France, but was part of the Holy Roman Empire back then. A man named Johann Carolus printed what is widely considered the first actual newspaper, the Relation aller Vornehmen und gedenkwürdigen Historien, which roughly translates to collection of all distinguished and commemorable news. Catchy title, right? Carolus had been publishing a sort of newsletter before this, copying reports by hand and sending them out. But then he had a eureka moment. What if I used this newfangled printing press to mass-produce the news? Boom. Newspapers were born. It wasn't exactly packed with memes or comics, but it did cover politics, wars, and weird events. So pretty much the same depressing stuff we read today. Progress. This invention not only sped up the spread of information, but also created a new job title. Guy who tells you what happened yesterday. Imagine the excitement of getting world news just a few days late. Still back then, that was considered lightning fast. Once Carolus got the ball rolling, other cities wanted in. Newspapers began popping up in Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands. England joined the party in the 1620s, with publications like the Courante reporting on events abroad. They didn't cover domestic news at first, probably because the king wasn't super into people knowing what he was up to. By the 18th century, newspapers were everywhere. America got its first newspaper in 1690 with public occurrences, both foreign and domestic. Unfortunately, it was shut down after just one issue. Why? It said some not-so-nice things about the government. Turns out, freedom of the press wasn't included with the starter pack. Still, newspapers kept growing, powered by the printing press, rising literacy rates, and the human need to read about someone else's drama over breakfast. By the 19th century, newspapers were booming. Thanks to industrialization, printing got faster and cheaper. More people could read, and more people wanted the tea. I mean, the news. We saw the rise of newspaper empires and legendary publishers like Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst. These guys knew how to sell papers, dramatic headlines, sensational stories, and occasionally stretching the truth like it was made of elastic. Yellow journalism, baby. It was during this time we got the modern format: headlines, columns, editorials, cartoons, and yes, crossword puzzles for when the news got too bleak. Newsboys shouting headlines on the streets became the soundtrack of the morning rush, and newspapers truly became a staple of daily life, right up there with coffee and complaining about the weather. Of course, fast forward to today, and many people get their news from the glowing rectangle in their hands. Online journalism has mostly taken over, and traditional newspapers are now kind of like vinyl records, retro, cool to some, but mostly collecting dust. Still, newspapers paved the way for modern journalism. They created the structure for how we report, interpret, and understand events around the world. And while headlines now live in apps and tweets, the soul of the newspaper lives on. So, who invented the newspaper? Well, no one person can take all the credit. It was more of an evolution, from Roman stones to Chinese silk scrolls, to Johann Carolus cranking the printing press in 1605. And somewhere along the way, it became the global information machine we know today. The next time you scroll past a headline or ignore a news alert, just remember that tiny notification on your phone is standing on the shoulders of emperors, monks, and a guy with a long newspaper title. So maybe, just maybe, give it a quick read. And if you ever invent something cooler than the newspaper, remember to give it a shorter name, please. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.